Hi, Union family. Charles, American Workers First. This is Union Facts Uncut. Every week we do the Union Facts Friday, and it's a quick snippet by design of just something related to labor, just a piece of information, a law, legislation, a process, something that people might not be familiar with to try to shed light on what's happening with unions, because I think there's a lot of disinformation out there. But every week when we do the videos, there's a lot of trimmed out to hit about a 2-minute mark that we try to shoot for. And I'm always bummed out that we had to cut that content. So I figured doing something like this that's a lot more informal. You can probably hear my dogs running around in the background. This way we can have some dialogue, because I think there's some good information that ultimately hits the cutting room floor. So as you can see, we are much more informal here. So instead of having this, we will have this. So just walking through this week's Union Facts Friday, which was about just cause, to sort of shed some light on just cause. Normally in union contracts, there's something in there regarding the grievance process, where if the company decides that one of the workers did something wrong and they discipline them, there's a defined parameters, a set of rules that you follow to get to the bottom of that and make sure that the company acted appropriately. So with the grievance process, normally they talk about just cause, because that's an established labor practice which arbitrators tend to follow when they're hearing cases. So to explain what that means, when you have a grievance and it goes through the steps of the grievance process, that's the due process that's involved with the union. And then if it gets denied, you can usually then appeal it to an arbitrator, and they will act as a judge in the case. They will hear both sides of the argument and determine whether or not the company acted appropriately. And usually they use the 7 steps of just cause. Now, do they have to use those? No, absolutely not. But they're a pretty established set of parameters. So in general, that's what you can use to make your argument and to line it up in the grievance, so that when you actually have to take it to arbitration, you'll be ready for it. Now, we talked about what those were previously, but I just wanted to sort of go through them with a little bit more detail. So the first one was notice. Was the employee adequately warned of the consequences of his or her conduct? And some of the things that we left out, was that work rule or performance standard published? Is there a written policy that goes along with it? Is it up to date and relevant to the business needs of your unit? Is it pertinent to what they're doing on a day-to-day basis? How was the employee made aware of it? Was it on a bulletin board, a desk manual, a staff meeting, notes? Was it just talked about? How well was it communicated? Because in order to follow a rule, you really need to understand the rule. Everyone has to know the rules of the game in order to play it correctly. And if you're fast and loose with those rules, well, then it just leads to a lot of chaos and a lot of miscommunication, and people can end up ultimately getting in trouble for stuff that they really didn't do on purpose. It was just a lack of understanding. So having proper notice it's really important. Number 2 was it a reasonable order or rule or order? So was the employer's rule or order reasonably related to efficient and safe operations? So is the rule instruction straightforward and stated in language that is easy to understand, or is it really muddled? Have you been consistent and unbiased in applying the rule or standard? Is it applied consistently throughout your department? Do you have different rules for different people that are doing the same thing? Because again, that can lead to confusion. Confusion leads to chaos. Chaos leads to people getting in trouble for stuff. And ultimately that doesn't help the employer, and it doesn't help the union either, because you're struggling with just interpretation as opposed to just getting the work done that you're trying to do. Because ultimately that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to go to work, understand what's expected of us, do our job, and leave. Company succeeds, work succeeds, everyone knows what's going on. The next one being investigation. Did management investigate before administering the discipline? So why do you suspect that a work rule violation performance discrepancy occurred? What has been done on the company's side to actually look into the evidence of the case? Can the employee perform the task? Is there a history of successful performance, or could the employee need additional training? Why exactly did it happen? You're looking into it. Are there witnesses other than the manager that saw this? List of who those people are: supervisors, employees, clients. Interview them, take notes. And again, the burden of proof is on the company to show that there was an infraction and that the infraction warranted some kind of discipline. Are there written processes? Or is there equipment that should be examined by you, the experts? Do you need to call HR, internal affairs? And again, a lot of these rules all intermingle with one another, because they seem kind of repetitive, or maybe that one rule will cover them all. But it's important because they overlap, and that way you can have a thorough understanding of what exactly happened, so that you're making a good decision on both sides. Because I think the last thing that you want is to be disciplining someone that really doesn't deserve it, that doesn't benefit anyone. It's just going to create a culture of fear and a lack of understanding. And again, smooth is fast and fast is smooth. So as long as everyone's on the same page, you can certainly do a better job of running your business. Next, fair investigation. Was the investigation fair and objective? So how long ago did the alleged infraction occur? Because justice delayed is justice denied. You can't be trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. If there was something that happened a year ago and now you're bringing it up in the current day, well, it's hard to defend yourself. It's hard to understand what maybe happened back then. So it has to be timely done. If you already know what happened, have you looked only for evidence to support your theory? Are you going into this with the thought that this person is guilty and that's what we're looking for? Or are you actually trying to figure out the facts of it so that if there is a possible exoneration, you're there for it? Again, just understanding, just making sure that things are just and fair, hence just cause. Should the employee remain on the worksite during the investigation? How severe was this? Are they a threat to the people around them? Are they, going to negatively impact the customers by still being there? So that all goes on with having an investigation, and it has to be a fair investigation. Have you given the employee a chance to appear with representation, to tell his side of the story and respond to the evidence that you have gathered? So that kind of goes back to your Weingarten rights. When there's an investigatory interview where you think that discipline can occur, you have the right to have union representation there, and the company, when asked, needs to provide that. The next one being proof, which seems pretty, self-evident that you should have some kind of evidence to corroborate the allegations that you're making. What conclusions are clearly supported by the evidence that you gathered? And remember that evidence must be truly substantial, not flimsy or slight, to form a basis for taking disciplinary action. I think everyone would agree that when you're in court, there has to be some kind of proof that you did something wrong, as opposed to just someone, arbitrarily saying that there was something that was done incorrectly, and because of that, you should be disciplined in some way. Just leads to negative outcomes all the way around. So next is equal treatment, where the rules, orders, and penalties applied even-handedly and without discrimination. This needs to be fair. Are the work rules being applied to everyone in the same way? If you have those two departments and they're being managed in different ways, well, clearly that's going to create confusion. Are all employees held accountable for the performance standards established for their positions? Have similarly situated employees received the same discipline? What is your department record for taking disciplinary action for the type of infraction? What is the campus records? So again, they have to make sure that everything's being implemented in a fair and just way, the same for all people. Otherwise, again, it's just going to really, lead to people being treated differently, and ultimately that's the goal of a union, to make sure regardless of your age, your race, your gender, everything, that everyone is treated in the exact same way, because ultimately that's the main objective of a union, for all workers to be treated in the exact same way, because we're all doing the same job, and because of that we should have same rights at work. I mean, it's just, fair is fair, right? And then the last one being the appropriate discipline for the penalty. The penalty has to fit the crime. Is the discipline you propose to take reasonably related to the seriousness of the problem? Did the violation pose serious safety problems or create workflow disruptions for the department? If it didn't, and you're heavy-handed on your discipline, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Is it reasonably related to the employee's record? How much service do they have with the company? What is their history for these kind of issues? If they've never been in trouble in the past 25 years and all of a sudden they're tardy and because of that you fire them, well, that doesn't seem to make much sense. And also when you're looking at companies that have pensions that are in place when you get to certain milestones, if someone's near the end of that and all of a sudden you start heavy-handing your discipline, well, it sure looks like you're trying to get rid of them, so potentially you won't have to pay that pension. And that's why having timelines like this and looking at things from a fair standard is really important, because otherwise it just opens the door to a lot of potential misconduct by a company, and those kind of things can lead to trouble for everyone. So this just makes sure that everyone's on a level playing field. Do you have the authorization to take action, or should you review it to the next level of management? There are some things that should be out of your immediate manager's hands when it comes to how things are being implemented. If it's a very high level thing, if it's something that was done and that needs to have HR consulted or labor consulted with it on it, well, you need to go to them, because a lot of times there's certain skill sets that everyone has. There's a reason why your managers have managers, and because of that, you got to make sure that everyone's following the proper process and protocol, because people have different skill sets, including managers. So making sure that everything's on the up and up, extremely important. A minor infraction does not merit harsh discipline unless it's a repeat occurrence by the employee. And what personal program is the employee part of? What's in their contract in regards to what they're expected? All of those things are really important when establishing just cause. So again, those are just some of the extra things that I wanted to take a minute to talk about. Just cause is really important because when you're in a work environment, being able to understand what is expected of you and perform to those expectations, it's critical in performing your job. If you don't know what the exact rules are, how are you properly going to play the game? And if you're playing the game and people are being treated differently, well, then that's going to lead to negative ramifications for others as well. So just cause eliminates all of those things. It makes it a level playing field for all workers, and there's an understanding between the company and the union in regards to what is expected of the workers. And when you have clear and concise understanding between the two groups, that's what leads to a smooth running business. All right, well, hey, really appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you have anything else that you'd like to add to this, please leave us a comment below. Just a heads up, these are only going to be posted to our YouTube channel. It is YouTube exclusive content. So please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the notifications to make sure it's coming in. Once we get to 100 subscribers, we can get our unique URL, which would be pretty cool. And if there's anything you'd like to see us cover on Union Facts Uncut, just leave us a message below. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.